Ladies and gentlemen, will you please be upstanding for His Worship the Mayor?
Council, I've been corrected. So I'm now ashamed to say I'm sorry to the female fraternity of our group, of our council. Councillors may remove their jackets.
Mr. Mayor, before we start the meeting, this is your last full council as such. But with your permission, sir, we'll keep our comments for the AGM in due course.
Certainly.
Can I just advise everybody, as I do at every meeting, that I have to remind you that the meeting is going to be recorded for subsequent broadcast on the internet site. Images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes. Public seating areas will also be in view of the camera, and by entering the chamber and using the public seating area, members of the public are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of images and sound recordings. Can I remind everybody that the Chair has discretion to terminate or suspend filming if continuing to do so would prejudice the proceedings, or that continued filming might infringe the rights of any individual. Can everybody please ensure that they use their microphones when speaking, and can they please indicate to speak so that we can call you and go through that process properly? And can you also use your microphone and show your hands if you're going to be seconding a motion? And finally, can I ask everybody to switch off mobile phones? Even if they're on silent and vibrate, they still interfere with the sound system. Thank you.
Right. Welcome, councillors, to council meeting of Wednesday, the 22nd of April. First item on the agenda is apologies for absent.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we've had apologies from Councillor Tony Chaplin and Councillor Phil Williams.
And Councillor Simon Williams.
Any more apologies? No? Right. Item number 2, declarations of interest. And I bring members' councillors' attention to A and B. That's it. Right. Minutes of previous meetings. Agenda item number 3, full council meeting of Wednesday the 11th of March.
Yes, move, Mr. Mayor.
We got a second up?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, can I ask you to show, please?
Councillor Bill Smith, please. Councillor Brett Carter. No. Councillor Tydfil, please. Councillor Harvey Jones.
That's carried. Thomas.
Just a question, Chair. Why have we got a different presentation tonight? It's no pretty pictures, just numbers.
Thank you. Agenda item number, moving on swiftly, agenda item number 4, Cabinet meeting of Tuesday the 17th of March.
Yes, move, Mr. Mayor.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions? Any comments? I'll ask you all to vote now, please, councillors. That's carried. That's carried. Agenda item number 5, the Audit Committee meeting of Tuesday the 17th of March.
Move, Mr. Mayor.
Seconder.
I move.
Clive Jones. Any questions? Any comments? Can I ask you to vote, please, councillors? All right, can we all settle down now, please? Carry on with the agenda. Agenda item number 6, the Statutory Licensing Committee of Thursday, the 19th of March. Councillor Jones.
I move, Mr Mayor.
Seconder.
Second, Chair.
Any questions? Any comments? Councillors, can I ask you to vote, please? That's carried. Agenda item number 7, scrutiny schools meeting of Monday the 23rd of March.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Tydfil. Any questions? Any comments? Ask you to vote, please, councillors.
Yeah, we're having a bit of a technical problem. Possibly. Conspiracy theories abound.
We're on number 9.
That's one of the council. Sorry, if you could bear with us just a moment, we're having a bit of a problem.
Old-fashioned show of hands.
It's a show of hands.
Yeah, can we just deal with this by a show of hands, please?
Can we have a show of hands on this item, please? Back to old-fashioned methods.
That's the way.
That's carried. Agenda item number 9.
We're on 8.
8.
We're on 8.
8. Oh, I turned 2 pages over. I haven't proposed it yet, Councillor Smith. Scrutiny and Social Services, Social Regeneration Meeting of Tuesday the 24th of March.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Right. Any questions?
We're on 10.
Any comments? Can I ask you all to vote, please?
I suggest you show of hands.
To ask for a show of hands again then, please. That's carried. Right. Agenda.
Get some emergency.
Agenda item number 9, Cabinet meeting of Wednesday the 25th of March. Is there a seconder? Any questions? Any comments? No. Can I ask all show of hands, please? Right, that's carried. Full council meeting of Wednesday the 25th of March. Is there a proposer? Seconder? Any questions? Any comments? Can I have a show of hands, please? That's carried. Agenda item number 11, scrutiny customer services of March the 30th.
Yes, move, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? Any comments? Can I have a show of hands, please? They must all be getting tired. Oh, you.
Mr Mayor, can I just press yes?
Yeah, that's carried. Agenda item number 12, scrutiny chief executive, including crime and disorder meeting of Tuesday the 31st of March.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Seconder. Any questions? Any comments? If you're not too tired, can we have a show of hands, please? That's carried. Agenda item number 13, licensing committee meeting of Wednesday the 1st of April.
I move, Mr Mayor.
Is there a seconder? Right. Any questions? Any comments? Can we have a show of hands, please, councillors? That's carried. The Planning, Regulatory and Licensing Committee meeting of Wednesday the 1st of April.
I move, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? Any comments? Can I have a show of hands, please, councillors? That's passed. Agenda item number 15, full council meeting of Wednesday the 1st of April.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? Any comments? Can I ask for a show of hands, please, councillors? That's carried. Agenda item number 16, cabinet meeting of Wednesday the 8th of April.
Yes, move, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Questions? Any comments? Can I ask for a show of hands, please, councillors? That's carried. Item number 17, the organisational structure for 2015.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, this is a straightforward report to identify progress on implementing the organisational structure agreed in Council on the 11th of March 2015. There is one minor alteration, Mr Mayor, on page 48, on the 8th line down. It's the currently reads Head of Legal and Democratic Services, and that should read Head of Legal and Governance and Monitoring Officer. And with that amendment, Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move the recommendation at 5.1 that progress in implementing the organisational structure be noted.
Is there a second up?
Second, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? Councillor Thomas?
Just a simple one, actually, Mr Mayor, if I may. Would it be possible in due course to have some sort of short purview of the responsibility areas covered by these posts? It's not always perfectly clear. You know, Cheryl Lee, only because she's sitting here, Head of Neighbourhood Services, what does that actually include? And it would be nice to know who's in charge of ICT given tonight.
Mr Mayor, can I just give a short answer? Yes.
Any other questions? Any comments? That's carried. Agenda item number 18, shared parental leave scheme.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, straightforward report, Mr Mayor, to seek approval from Council for the shared parental leave scheme to be implemented with immediate effect. I'm happy to move the recommendation on page 51 at 7.1, Mr Mayor, that the shared parental leave scheme be approved with immediate effect.
Is there a second?
Yes, second, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? Councillor Mitten, can you switch your... any comments? That's carried. Oh, there we go. Item number 19. The Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council's response to the Welsh Government's white paper, Reforming Local Government, Power to Local People.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to approve the Council's response to Welsh Government's white paper, Reforming Local Government, Power to Local People. Mr Mayor, Council will be very familiar with Welsh Government's proposals to modernise local government. Any responses to the white paper need to be submitted to Welsh Government by the 28th of April, and all councils from across Wales are now in the process of discussing the implications of the proposals as set out in the paper. Mr Mayor, at a meeting of the WLGA's Coordinating Committee on Friday the 27th of March at Flintshire Civic Centre, all constituent political groups were represented at the meeting, and following considerable debate and discussion, all groups agreed a response on behalf of Welsh local government. The responses that are recommended in tonight's report in Appendix 1 closely reflect the responses submitted by the WLGA, and I am sure will be accepted by Council this evening, subject to any amendments members may wish to make. Mr Mayor, the recommendation in section 6.1 on page 67 of the report is that the response to Welsh Government's white paper, Reforming Local Government, Power to Local People, as provided in Appendix 1 to this report, be noted. Sorry, be approved, Mr Mayor. I so move.
Is there a second up?
Second, Mr Mayor.
Right. Any questions? Any comments?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a few observations, if I may. Looking at page 70, first of all, and under council leaders to have explicit duties and what follows. Point number 2, it says the promotion of diversity in local governments must start with the selection process of the political parties. I'm not quite sure how that would be achieved, certainly from an independent point of view, because, you know, who stands for elections. There is no way of actually manufacturing or manoeuvring diversity in that sense. It would be interesting under the next section, under 2, that we do not feel the case has been made for reducing allowances. I'd be interested to know how we compare with local authorities in Wales. I've already met with Richard Penn, the chair of the remuneration panel, and sorry, outside Wales, in England. I can read faces very well, Gareth. I could see I'd gone wrong without looking. So it would be an interesting one there. The number at the bottom of the page, the view that a definitive view on council structures needs to be reached. I think that's a given, in the sense that we need to know where we stand before we move forward. And then moving forward a couple of pages, I certainly support on page 73 where it says the general proposals to strengthen the role of audit committees is an important consideration. And again, nipping over a couple of pages, just an observation again on page 76, where it says the arena of local government finance is a key issue. I think perhaps the word consultation should appear in that sentence somewhere. It may be given greater prominence, and the reform should be given greater prominence, but I think in some way or other there should be some consultation with local authorities about how that prominence appears in due course. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any other comments? Right. I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour of the report on page 67, will you please vote? That's carried. Number 20, a petition received.
Yes, straightforward report, Mr Mayor, to inform Council of the receipt of a petition. I'm happy to move the recommendation set out in 5.1 on page 82. The Council notes the petition received.
Is there a second up?
Yeah, second, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? Any comments? Can I ask you all to vote for the motion, please? That's carried. Item number 21, nursery education proposals to fund all nursery places part-time from September 2015. And I think Councillor Toomey is taking this one.
Yeah, it's for my sins, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, the purpose of the report is to inform members with respect to the legal challenge to the nursery education proposal 2015-16 and other matters related to the public interest in the proposal. Moreover, to request that Council revoke the decisions taken on the 28th of January 2015 and the 11th of March 2015 with respect to the nursery education proposals, and to request that Council approve the reissuing of schools' formula allocations 2015-16 calculated based on the scheme of delegation prior to the changes approved by Council on the 28th of January and the 11th of March, i.e. to include funding for full-time nursery places up to the 1979-80 full-time equivalent limit. Mr Mayor, members will be aware from 1.4 to 1.7 of the report that a legal challenge from Bindman's solicitors has been received regarding the proposed reconfiguration of the Council's nursery provision. Members will also be aware from 1.8 of the report that an online petition of over 1,000 signatures has also been received asking Council to reconsider the proposals. Members will have read the report in detail, so rather than go through it line by line this evening, I'd like to set the scene and give an overview of the current situation. Mr Mayor, we currently have a mixed economy of provision, some part-time, some full-time. Some schools offering full-time provision causes bed blocking, and as a result there are many children who cannot access even a part-time place in our nurseries. Over 200 children are not able to access provision until the September following their 3rd birthday, and this is up to 2 terms later than they should have access to provision. The local authority policy is to provide part-time nursery for every 3-year-old the term following their 3rd birthday, and the delay in access is discriminating negatively against those pupils and their families. Mr Mayor, the evidence tells us there is no greater benefit to full-time provision over and above part-time provision. Part-time provision is understood to be 5 sessions per week, 2 to 3 hours per session. This is in line with the Welsh Government's recommendation to provide a minimum of 10 hours provision to every child, which is Welsh Government's recommendation of sufficient provision. 2/3 of our nursery population has received full-time provision, yet outcomes at the end of the foundation phase remains 22 out of 22 across all local authorities in Wales. Clearly, Mr Mayor, we need to do something different when we consider that every other performance indicator has improved. Mr Mayor, key findings for the EPI study 2004 indicates that preschool experience compared to none enhances all-round development in children. Duration of attendance is important, and earlier start is related to better intellectual development. Full-time attendance led to no better gains for children than part-time provision. Mr Mayor, let's reflect on what we've been trying to achieve so far, and that is equity of access to sufficient provision for all children the term following their 3rd birthday, and 57% of the population agreed with our proposal to provide part-time nursery education. Today we're being asked to reconsider our position for 2 reasons. One, the recent public petition. We are duty-bound to reconsider our proposal in light of this. And despite Council having considered the research evidence, Welsh Government guidelines and our own policy, we have not agreed formally what is sufficient nursery education provision for the County Borough of Merthyr Tydfil. This is the reason that we have to go back a few steps if our ambition is still to achieve equity of access to sufficient provision for all children the term following their 3rd birthday. Mr. Mayor, if we proceed without checking our position, we may find ourselves facing a judicial review. And in this event, we have been advised by Council that the proposal is likely to be quashed, and it would be wrong for me, as leader of this Council, to force a review that would potentially cost the taxpayers of Merthyr Tydfil County Borough possibly hundreds of thousands of pounds. And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remind every member sitting here this evening that any member voting against the recommendations will effectively be voting for judicial review. At the moment, we can proactively reconsider our position so that we can agree formally what is sufficient provision for this authority and plan to ensure that our actual provision meets this requirement. We now have to determine and agree what is sufficient in terms of nursery provision and meet that requirement, with all future plans being consulted on in full with the public. Mr. Mayor, the ethos of this Council has always been honesty and integrity and doing the right thing. But that doesn't mean we always get things right. Sometimes it means taking more time to reflect on what the people of Merthyr Tydfil are saying so that we can be absolutely sure we are doing the right thing. We are a listening council and we want to do things properly. Mr. Mayor, with all that in mind and following many discussions with senior officers and senior political colleagues, I'm happy to move the recommendations in section 9 on page 87 of the report that 9.1, the decisions of the 28th of January 2015 and 11th of March 2015 with respect to nursery education be revoked. 9.2, the reissuing of schools' former allocations 2015-16 calculated based on the scheme of delegation prior to these decisions of the 28th of January and the 11th of March, i.e. funding for full-time nursery places will be provided up to the 1979-80 full-time equivalent limit be approved. And 9.3, Mr. Mayor, a future report is brought to Council detailing the steps with respect to the provision of nursery education in the County Borough.
Have we got a seconder? Harvey Jones. Right. I'll throw this open now. Any questions? Any comments? Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Notwithstanding the mild blackmail from the leader about anybody voting against this would be voting for the judicial review, I think one can make those comments at any time in public debate, and really they mean nothing at all. I applaud the need actually to bring this back to Council, if only because we got it wrong. How we got it wrong and why we got it wrong, I don't think is a matter that I particularly want to debate in the Chamber this evening. All I'm prepared to say that it is an embarrassment to the local authority that we went down a particular road and found out that the gate was still closed because we hadn't started at the beginning. We were starting somewhere along the journey. I think we need to be mindful of the human effect of this. For example, I was with a head teacher this morning who has already removed one member of staff who's gone. He acted quickly, given the news about early retirement or redundancy, and that person therefore has lost a job as a result of this manoeuvre. I think it's also important to comment about the fact that if we're going back to schools with revised formal allocations, that's going to create a significant amount of work for head teachers as well. I respect the leader and the Labour Party for bringing this to council now. All I will say in conclusion is that, and I quote a very well-known chief executive who said this to me earlier this afternoon, can we please get all our ducks in a row in the right order next time? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any of...
Only to say, Mr. Mayor, that
You'll close the debate. So can we just see if there's any other comments?
Any comments?
Well,
Clive Jones?
Just one correction really in the report. And if you look under paragraph 4, which is the conclusion, it refers to the points noted in 4.1 to 4.5. I think that should be 3.1, 3.5. Okay. Thanks.
Gareth Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking now at 1.6 on page 84. The school of which I'm Chairman of Governors, Bedlinog, acted in terms of the redundancy element here, and 2 members of staff went. We are now fighting to get one back in on a part-time basis, and this is the language support teacher, which is vital for a school like Bedlinog, and I would suggest there would be lots of this happening throughout the county. And I just wonder, following this, if there would be, and if it may be something that the forum will be aware of in the future, of teachers having been made redundant as a result of the previous decision, which we're asked to look at and rescind tonight, whether they would now be looking through their unions to seek unfair dismissal grounds. So that's something else that I think we ought to look for in the wind. And Council to be aware of that one as a possibility.
Any other comments? Right, councillors. Councillor Harvey Jones.
Move to the conclusions at paragraph 4, where it says, on the basis of points noted in 4.1 to 4.5, can I ask that the alteration is made there so that it becomes 3.1 to 3.5?
We're all done.
It's all done.
Just need to move to the vote. So those in favour.
Votes now, is it? Right. Right, councillors, can I ask for a show of hands in favour of the recommendations on page 87, 9 to 9.3?
That's unanimous.
That's carried. Come back to the front. Yes, that's right. We have an extra item to deal with any urgent business or correspondence, and I think Councillor Toomey has got some.
Yes, apologies, Mr. Mayor. This is a late report that was only circulated earlier today. It's a straightforward report in terms of seeking approval for the statutory holidays for the leave year 2015-16. I'm happy to move the recommendations, Mr. Mayor, on section 6, 6.1 and 6.2 of the report.
Is there a seconder?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Any comments? Can I ask you all to vote for the recommendations on page 6 to 6.2? That's carried. 23, to receive communications from His Worship the Mayor. I have none, except to wish you all thank you for attending and a safe journey home. We have got one.